Today I'll be reviewing an SUV only crypto millionaires can afford, a 2022 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Now this Grand Wagoneer competes with the likes of the Cadillac Escalade, the Lexus LX600, the Mercedes GLS, BMW X7, the full-size luxury segment. And this one is coming in over 6 figures. And for good reason, because this Grand Wagoneer is fully loaded with every single feature you can imagine. It also drives like a dream and has more space on the interior than some apartments out there. So in this review video, I'm going to tell you everything there is to know about this brand new Grand Wagoneer and tell you how it drives so you can decide if this is the right SUV for you. All right, let's get started. Now, usually I would go for a drive and tell you about the features during the drive, but there's so many features inside this Grand Wagoneer. Let me tell you a little bit more about it before I go for a drive. First of all, if you're a fan of USB ports, know that you're going to get 18 USB ports inside this Grand Wagoneer. 18. So under this motorized screen, yes, it is motorized because if you're paying $100,000 for SUV, you can't be a peasant and fold it up yourself. So yes, it's motorized, but underneath there, you will find 6 different USB ports. That's right. And in case that's not enough, well, there's 2 more hidden in this armrest. So you have 8 up front. And then for the second row, you do have 4 up front for both passengers. And in case, again, that's not enough, there's 2 more hidden inside the armrest. And even in the third row, each passenger gets 2. So you get 18 USB ports in here. And if you're a fan of screens and you want the maximum amount of screens, it's hard to beat this Grand Wagoneer because you actually get 8 different screens. First of all, you get this giant digital gauge cluster, which is really nice. It's very customizable, and you can scroll through a variety of menus. Basically, whatever you want to see, you can. And just so happens that this Grand Wagoneer also has night vision, and unfortunately, I can't show you that right now because it's not at night, but you do get that. Of course, you get a huge infotainment screen, and this is among the best I've ever used. It is very big, it's bright, responsive, love the menu buttons, everything just works really well, and I love it. I think it's great. And you have some capacitive touch buttons on the side for heated seats and ventilated seats and heated steering wheel. Sometimes they're kind of a hit or miss. Sometimes it registers, sometimes it doesn't, but overall, I think this is a lovely screen. And of course, I talked about the motorized screen. So that's 3 screens. Then you have a 4th screen just for the passenger in case the passenger wanted to change up the audio system, change up the music, which most likely you don't want to happen, but they have the option to. And you could also plug in HDMI into some kind of player and they could play it off of there, and USB. There's another screen just for the passenger. So that makes 4 screens. Now, if you move to the second row, well, you'll see that each passenger does have their own entertainment screen with Amazon Fire. And each passenger does get their own remote, and they could check out Disney Plus, of course, Amazon, and you could check out Netflix. The rear passengers, the kids, will be entertained. Now, not only do you get 2 screens there, but they also get another screen for climate control. Just like the front, you can adjust however you want. They do get heated and ventilated seats, and of course, you can control the temperature. So that makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screens. So that makes 7 screens. Well, where's the 8th one? Well, that's the rear view mirror because the rear view mirror is digital. So you actually have an 8th screen. And of course, this is very useful when you do have tall passengers in the rear that just happens to be blocking your view, or your cargo is blocking your view. It's very nice. Now, with that said, if you wanted bragging rights, technically there's a 9th screen because this Grand Wagoneer does come with heads-up display. It's hard to display with my GoPro, but it is in front of your face and it's reflected off the windshield. So technically it's another screen. So you get 9 different screens inside this Grand Wagoneer. Other numbers you may care about, there are 10 cup holders inside this Grand Wagoneer. So that's plenty, although it's not class leading or SUV leading, but 10, I think it's plenty for most families. You got 2 sunroofs in here. You got a gigantic panoramic one on top that goes to the 2nd row, which is nice. It lets so much light in. And a separate one just for the 3rd row passengers. Also, as for the audio system, inside this Grand Wagoneer, it comes with Macintosh speakers, 24 channels, 23 speakers in 19 locations, pushing about 1,400 watts. Yeah, it's a fantastic sound system. Because this is a 6-figure SUV, you can't be bothered by room temperature drinks. And that is why the Grand Wagoneer does come with a cool box inside your armrest. It will actually use the AC just to cool down your drinks. Now, because it's a big SUV, of course you get power seats, power steering wheel, and also powered pedal. It can go forward and backwards. Also nice. Of course, you have power steps, so as soon as you open the door, they elegantly pop out and then elegantly retract. And once they do, you can't even tell it's there. Very, very convenient. All right, I'm behind the wheel. Let me tell you more about this Grand Wagoneer and more importantly, tell you how it drives. First of all, I had this Grand Wagoneer for pretty much the entire week and I've been driving it extensively. And I'm just gonna tell you that I love this Grand Wagoneer. I took some long road trips with it, daily commutes, and I am really a big fan of how this Grand Wagoneer drives. It is smooth, powerful. That's how I would describe it. First of all, this one, because of the Obsidian, it's the upper trim. You have 6.4 liter V8, which is producing 471 horsepower and 455 pound-feet of torque. So that's a lot of power. And I never, ever feel underpowered in this Grand Wagoneer. It has made it to an 8-speed transmission, but the way Jeep geared this Grand Wagoneer, along with this transmission, it is smooth at all speeds. Low speeds, right now, I'm going about 35 miles per hour. Very smooth. This Grand Wagoneer doesn't really feel bogged down. At upper speeds, it seems like there's unlimited amount of power. On the highway, right, I was driving 80, 85, maybe a little bit higher. I can't really tell you that, but I will say the Wagoneer was smooth. No wind noise, no commotion. It just got up to speed, whatever you wanted to. So I'm really impressed with this engine and transmission. Besides the engine, the rest of this drive is also lovely. This Grand Wagoneer does come with air suspension, obviously, height adjustable. So you can set it when the car is off, it goes to the lowest setting. When you're driving, it'll automatically adjust. And of course, if you go off-road, it will go to the maximum setting and you can auto-adjust that whenever. But it's really smooth. This Grand Wagoneer Obsidian comes with 22-inch wheels. They're beautiful black alloy wheels, right? But with wheels this big, usually sidewall very small on the tires, and you get more bumps and rattles and stuff. No, it's so comfortable in here. And it's not like boat comfortable. It's not like I'm wallowing around. It's very controlled, yet it's just soaking up everything. I mean, this car is lovely for road trips. I mentioned about taking some long road trips. Yeah, it's just smooth. Now, this steering wheel is unique. It's a 2-spoke, not a 3-spoke. It has a unique look. It feels fantastic. The leather feels good. The thickness is good. And the button layout is very easy to understand. There's not too much to learn. But the steering feel also, it doesn't make you feel like this is a big, heavy SUV. And this is a big, heavy SUV. It's weighing close to 6,400 pounds. So it is extremely heavy and big, but the steering, it kind of fools you. It doesn't feel like it. It feels very, very light, smooth, controlled. And again, adds to the great driving experience that you'll have inside this Grand Wagoneer. Now, as for the looks of this brand new Grand Wagoneer, I will say that this Obsidian one that I'm driving today, I believe is the best looking Grand Wagoneer out there. I think the Grand Wagoneer looks good overall, but there's some weird vibes to the exterior. When I first saw it, I'm like, there's certain places that just looks out of place. And when you have chrome like splash all around, it makes it a little bit more awkward. But this one is fully blacked out, and I love it. The 7-slot grille up front, blacked out. But you still have that very mean, menacing look up front because this car is just so big and wide, right? Love the front. The lights look beautiful both on top and on the bottom. And it's just a really menacing look up front. And if you move to the side, some of the awkwardness of the shape is removed because everything is black. Mirrors are black, wheels are black, the roof rails are black, window trims are black, everything is black. And I do think it does make this Grand Wagoneer a lot more menacing and mean too. And the back of the Wagoneer is kind of plain, it's just a box, right? But again, with everything blacked out, I think this is a perfect look and makes this Grand Wagoneer look very, very nice and very menacing. Now, this Obsidian trim does more than just black out the exterior. There are changes on the inside, including the wood trim that I'm normally not a fan of at all, have all been replaced with this textured aluminum, and it just looks fantastic. It really looks fantastic. Gives the interior really good contrast with the black leather and the white stitching and the black trim, right? Everything mixed together. Man, this interior looks absolutely lovely. I love the interior and everything, everywhere you feel. Doesn't matter if it's down below, on top, everywhere you feel feels like money, like you're in a 6-figure SUV. Honestly, there's nowhere in here that feels cheap, and rightfully so. It shouldn't feel cheap. Like right now, just driving around town, it's just lovely. I can't describe it any better than I have, but if you get inside, if you're interested in this SUV, go for a drive and you'll see what I mean. It's just a really good driving experience. I have tested a lot of full-size SUVs, including the luxury SUVs. The X7 previously I thought was the best driving full-size luxury SUV. I'm not so sure that's the case anymore. I honestly think this may be the best driving full-size luxury SUV on the market today. And that's saying a lot. I do believe this driving experience is among the best out there. Now, of course, before I went for a drive, I did tell you guys about all the features you'll find inside this Grand Wagoneer, specifically to this Obsidian. Now, if you get the lower trim like the Series 1, you're not gonna get all the extensive stuff that I mentioned, but Series 2 is really well equipped, and of course, the Obsidian and Series 3, you pretty much get everything that you could think of. Honestly, I can't think of any feature that this Grand Wagoneer doesn't have. Some of the things I didn't mention yet, 360 view camera system and reverse camera system, that's pretty standard. But because of the lovely big screen, you could literally see everything around you and behind you and all these different views. And there are cameras inside too. So inside this Grand Wagoneer, there's something called Fam Cam. And of course, you can see every single seat inside this Grand Wagoneer, and you could choose each individual seat to look at. So if you want to know what your kids or your passenger are doing, right, you can spy on them without them knowing, or you can yell at them without them knowing. So that is also pretty cool. Of course, Wi-Fi is built in, right? So you can have this whole car as one gigantic hotspot. Yes, that's available. So honestly, with the Wi-Fi, with the screens, right, with all the USB ports, there's really no reason for your kids to be asking you, are we there yet, every 5 minutes. Ooh. Okay, that's pretty good. I kind of expected that with this powerful 6.4 liter engine. Acceleration is no problem. I just tested 0 to 60. Yeah, on paper, this is supposed to be doing 0 to 60 about 5.7 seconds. And that definitely felt like 5.7 seconds. I was definitely pushed back and there's a lot of grunt because of this giant V8. So yeah, passing is definitely not going to be a problem, but I already knew that. I told you guys, I've tested this on the highway, normal driving. There's just plenty of torque everywhere. However, fuel economy isn't the greatest though. Because this is such a big, heavy SUV, expect to get about 14 miles per gallon in the city, about 18 on the highway. So it's about the same as other big, heavy SUVs. Because of how big this SUV is, there's so much room on the inside. Up front, you get endless shoulder room, hip room. I'm nowhere close of hitting either the door panel or the center console. I mean, it's just enormous. Plenty of headroom, right? And I have my seats pretty high up just to see over the hood. Same thing in the second row. I'm 5'10", and even all the way towards the front, I still have like 3 or 4 inches of legroom, although there could be more if I move the seats all the way back. And here's the thing, even in a third row, when the second row is all the way back, I still have 2 inches of legroom. And I love how the seats are very high off the ground, so they feel like normal seats. So there's not a lot of thigh gap underneath, right? And it's just very comfortable. It's very comfortable for adults in the third row, even more comfortable in the second row, and of course up front is the most comfortable. So there's plenty of room. And even behind the third row for cargo room, you still have a good amount of room for your luggage or groceries, and everything's powered. So third row, of course, is powered. Second row is powered only to fold down. Now, of course, if you wanted more cargo room, you could opt for the L version, which extends this Grand Wagoneer even more so. You have more cargo room behind the third row seats. When you're in the Grand Wagoneer, you're just sitting so high up. Even normal SUVs and minivans, they look tiny and short in front of you. You get a really good commanding view. I love it. I love this ride height. I love these seats, by the way, also. They're not just for show. They are very comfortable seats. You can adjust them 100 different ways. The controls are on the side, and you also get massage function up here too. There's actually a lot of massage function you could choose from. High, medium, low, and there's different functions. Low, extend, rock climb, waterfall. Yeah, so if you're taking a long road trip, you want to stretch out a little bit, you can. But the seats are very comfortable. Very comfortable. I love the cushion, and I love the seating position as well. The visibility is great. The side windows are huge. The door panels are relatively low, so it does feel very spacious in here. The front windshield's a little bit raked, so it's not as big as I expected, but still plenty big. The blind spot visibility is good, even though the mirrors does have a little extra blind spot mirror because of how big this SUV is. And I love how the side mirrors are absolutely huge. A lot of modern cars are so small. These are huge, huge. And of course, because this is pretty much fully loaded, you get every safety feature. Blind spot monitoring is included. All the safety features, including keeping your Grand Wagoneer in between the lanes, emergency braking, front, rear, everything you could think of, adaptive cruise control is all standard. As for trim levels and pricing, there's technically 3 trim levels, but there's a 4th one added in there, and that happens to be this Obsidian, which is by itself. So you have Series 1, 2, Obsidian, and Series 3. Now, if you're looking for the base Series 1, you're still expected to pay about $90,000. The good thing is 4x4 is standard on all the trim levels, so you don't have to tack on more, but it's still coming in around $90,000, a little bit under. Now, Series 2, you're right under $100,000, around $99,000, so there is a big gap between Series 1 and Series 2. Now, if you're looking for the Obsidian, which is this one, which I love, you have to add a little more. This one is coming in a little bit over $104,000, so it's really getting up there. And if you want the Series 3, expect to pay over $107,000. So bottom line is the Grand Wagoneers are definitely not cheap. and they are competing with the upper trim levels of all the other luxury full-size SUVs out there. So to conclude, I am in love with this brand new Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Jeep knocked it out of the park. They over-engineer, over-delivered, and I believe this is a winner. The only question mark is whether or not luxury buyers will buy a Jeep this expensive, because it's not a BMW, it's not a Mercedes, it's not an Audi, it's not a Lexus, right? Jeep traditionally does not compete in the luxury segment. But I honestly think if people could get over the name and they just sit in one and go for a drive, they will be blown away. Blown away. And I do think Jeep will attract a lot of buyers to the Grand Wagoneer because of how good it is. I love this SUV. And if there was actually one that you can find at a dealership, I would actually consider picking up one myself because it's that good. Unfortunately, right now with the environment we're in, there's not a lot of Grand Wagoneers out on the lot. But if you do find one and you're looking for a big luxury SUV like this, you should definitely check one out. Thanks for watching. Smash it a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned for my future review videos.